Can you beat Cyberpunk without eliminating a single person? No, you can't. In fact, taking down enemies are objectives in a lot of missions. However, I thought this would be a cool challenge, so I did an absolute pacifist run, where I tried to eliminate or KO as few enemies as possible. This is also not intended to be a full walkthrough, so I'm going to be skipping through a lot of the dialogue and speeding up footage to save time. I'll be focusing more on routes and strategy than any of the narrative elements. If you've never seen or played this game before, then I'm sorry to say that some of this video might not make any sense. I also predict this is going to be a very long video, so whether I split it into 2 parts or just make it one giant ass one, thank you for watching and hopefully you learn a thing or two. I went with the regular start and set the difficulty to very hard. I used the Corpo life path as the Prologue mission has no combat and it will come in handy for the main job Gimme Danger. I did have some mods installed, but they are all cosmetic or quality of life improvements. Some examples are clothing mods, but I won't be using any, the flashlight mod, the naming your saves mod, making gorilla arms look vanilla, and a mod to spruce up the apartment. I have no mods that increase or decrease the difficulty of the game or affect NPCs in any way. I also used a random number generator to decide which gender to play, with the parameter set to spit out a number between 1 and 2, with 1 being male and 2 being female. But first I decided to generate a number between 1 and 10 to determine how many times to click for the actual gender. This landed on 10, and after clicking 10 times I landed with 2. So to lay the ground rules in writing, this is a run that minimizes casualties and knockouts. So in addition to no lethal elims, I will also try to avoid knockouts if possible. And in terms of completing the game, I'm not concerned with beating a certain number of missions or anything like that. I just need to get from the start of a new save to the point where I see that card that says thanks for playing. I'm using the regular start and playing on very hard difficulty. I'm using the Corpo life path and will allow myself to save Scum and reload within reason. And lastly, I have no mods that affect gameplay. With that being said, I will use the E3 version of Female V, which you can do by setting most sliders to 22. The hair is a mod, but it is pretty similar to the unmodded hair number 1. I'm not quite sure what the optimal build will be, but for now I put 5 points into intelligence and tech, and 4 points into the rest. Beginning with the Corpo Rat, I did the full dialogue with Frank, as that should allow me to peacefully talk him down in War Pigs if it comes to that. Then I talked to Jenkins, accepted his shard and cash, and talked to Harry, told him to pull our mole out, and then I took the AV to Lizzie's bar. Unfortunately, my pacifist run means I can't launch the basketball at this guy's face, a foreshadowing of the amount of bitching out I'm going to be doing. I met with Jackie downstairs and Abernathy's patrol comes and fired me from Arasaka. Fortunately, I still had the cash I took from Jenkins, which launched into the time skip intermission cutscene, and we are off to the races. We arrive at the opening mission of Act 1, which sort of serves as a tutorial. I skipped the actual tutorial and proceeded to the elevator with Jackie. After entering the scav hideout, the game instructs you to eliminate this guard. Sadly, even knocking him out requires you to place him into the freezer before advancing, and in this game, placing unconscious bodies into furniture items is a lethal elimination. Maybe with a freezer that makes sense, but if you're just putting a body into a locker or something, they can survive that. I hope they change that in the next game and make it like Hitman. While it wasn't my choice, that's the first lethal elim of this run. Next, I followed Jackie into cover, and the game provides you with an opportunity to do a quiet takedown. I wanted to skip that, so I tried moving into the next room, but a guard was in the middle of doing a 360 and I got spotted, so reload it is. This time, I waited for the guard to fully turn and crawled my way around the corner. Entering the bathroom provides a passage into the next room, which gave me an opportunity to take down the scav leader. That's 1 knockout added to the count. Once you take out the leader, the game automatically takes out all the other guards. Now all I have to do is rescue Sandra Dorset and hand her off to Trauma Team. With that completed, I called Wakako to let her know the job was done and lent my car to Jackie for his date night. While Jackie was driving me home, we got attacked by a couple more scavs. This is a scripted chase, and I elected not to attack them aside from using reboot optics. Eventually, they crashed, and I would call that a self-inflicted explosion. Jackie dropped me off at the garage of my apartment, concluding the mission. After all that, I am sitting at a count of 1 lethal elimination and 1 knockout. That's about as good as a start as you can get. The next big mission in Act 1 will be the heist, and before getting to that, there's a few filler missions I had to take care of. The first of these is the Ripper Dock. The next morning I was still reeling from the effects of plugging into Sandra Dorset, so I told Jackie we gotta go to Victor's. I also picked up the iconic weapon Dying Knight from Wilson, which was free. I went downstairs and met with Jackie, who told me about the Dexter Deshawn job. Then he gave me my car back. I drove over to Victor's and had him resolve my virus and installed some new cyberware. After that, Jackie said Dex was waiting around the corner, so I went to find out what the job was. Dex said that we're stealing a relic from Arasaka, but before doing that, I've got to obtain a device called the Flathead from the Maelstrom. I also had to talk to the client, Evelyn Parker. According to the game's wiki page, there is a way to obtain the Flathead from the Maelstrom without any combat whatsoever. And that requires not meeting with Meredith Stout and paying the 10,000 eddies out of pocket. With less than $800 in my account, that seemed like quite the challenge. But given the nature of this run, it also seemed like the most logical route to go with for this mission. While deciding what to do, I went ahead and completed a job called the Gift. This gives you the ping quick hack. Next, I went and helped out Flaming Crotchman. This is a side job that only involves driving, so as long as you don't crash, it's easy to complete. Unfortunately, the eddies don't come immediately, but I still got some XP out of it. After that, I found a gig location that has a bunch of hackable ports around, which was Hippocratic Oath. Hacking these, I was able to get a bit of money for it. Then I went to my crib and sold most of my stash, which included some weapons, and this got me over 5,000 eddies. I went around town and collected more garbage, clothing, and crafting components, and was able to craft a tier 1 weapon and sell that too. This got me to around 6,500 eddies. Then, I realized that I can probably do the boxing mission in Kabuki. While boxing is technically combat, you never fully knock out your opponent. With that said, I put down the $4,000 wager, beat the shit out of this one-brain, two-headed man, and surprisingly get paid back 10,000 eddies. Shortly after that, Flaming Crotchman also paid me for driving him, so now I have more than enough to complete the pickup without combat. However, I decided to head to Lizzie's bar and do the information first. It's all dialogue, including a rather lengthy BD sequence, none of which is that interesting if you've already done it before. The short form is we called T-Bug and watched a recording of the penthouse we'll be raiding to learn where the treasure is. Let's just skip ahead to save time. Now it's time to do the pickup. Out of curiosity, I advanced time to broad daylight as I normally do this mission later in the day. Like I said before, the non-combat route involves skipping Meredith completely, otherwise Militech will storm the plant. So I met with Jackie and together we went straight to All Foods. After moving in the facility as usual, we met with Dum Dum. From here, it is super tempting to start combat, but you have to choose all the de-escalating dialogue, especially with Royce. It makes you feel like such a sissy, but for the sake of the run, it'll be worth it. Eventually, you'll get the option to pay with your own eddies. After doing so, we took the Flathead, Dum Dum walked Jackie and I out, and this gets you some unique dialogue with Jackie and Dex.
No begging, no debt, no corpo strings attached. And the Flathead's ours. That's the way to do biz, V.
How'd you get him on board? You used the corpo woman?
Did it without Militech holding my hand. Didn't want to risk it. Paid out of my own pocket.
That bot ain't no bargain basement tech.
That it is not.
Anyways, the successful usage of this route means we did not have to take out any enemies in this mission. A major victory. We are now ready to do the heist, but first I decided to blow all my remaining money, about 5,500, on some cyberware. Since Victor still requires to be paid to use, I visited another fully Ganic Ripper named Robert Rainwater in Kabuki. I was able to pick up atomic sensors, bionic joints, and mechatronic core. At this level they won't help out too much, but it's better than nothing. It's Heist-a-roni time. This mission is very long and has a ton of dialogue, so I'll try to keep this brief. The only interesting thing that happened before departing was that my game froze then crashed. When I reloaded, Delamain's face was no longer present on the screen. When I got to Konpeki, because I was a former corpo, I could be exceedingly mean to the receptionist, which is always amusing. Then, something I did off-screen was calling the elevator up that is behind Jackie here. Surprisingly, you are allowed to do this, and this is the elevator that you enter later when going to the garage. There's a lot of narrative set up here, so let's just blast through it. I did all the flathead shit, went to the penthouse, stole the relic, almost got caught, Yorinobu attacked Saburo, T-Bug died, and we ran outside and crashed through the roof. Y'all know how it goes. Alright, so now we're at the actual interesting part of the mission, which is stealthily avoiding all these guards and escaping Konpeki. Jack and I made our way down the stairs and 2 guards entered the room. They will position themselves in a way that lets you do a silent sleeper, and taking them out is a mission objective. Jackie gets the other one, so that's 1 knockout added to the count. Around the corner and into the hallway there are 2 guards and a camera. At first I accidentally used distract enemy on the camera instead of turning it off, but what I learned from this is that this first guard won't move. So I subdued him and carried his body to the side. It seems like the second guard doesn't move either, so I was able to sneak past him. 2 guards then come charging down the hallway, but they will move past and stop in front of the gate to the right. It may seem like they would see you, but you can sneak by these guys as well. This next room is where I fucked up a bit. I kinda forgot how exactly these 2 guards pathed and thought I'd be able to hide by this table, but one of them circles it and the other is covering his 6. I reloaded and made sure to move much faster into the next part of the room so I could pass by on the other side. Now there's 1 guard in front here as well as the guards on the right who stopped by the gate earlier. I couldn't find a way to move this guard so I subdued him, but doing this nearly blew my cover and put enemies on alert as his body was spotted. I pushed forward and surprisingly the guard in the next room was not alerted, so I was able to sneak by him. Arriving at the next area, there's 1 guard in front and 2 that are prepared to inspect the room. The lone guard is not much of a problem as his vision cone is pointed away, but for some reason I had a tough time getting these 2 guys to start their move, but once they did, I was able to sneak by and do a wide swing toward the elevator. As we all know, that elevator is shut down, so we need to continue down this next hallway. There's a guard that patrols up and down as well as 3 surrounding the other elevator. One of the guards has an access card that will let us use the elevator, so he needs to get taken out. Then, out of nowhere, I guess one of the previous guards I knocked out was spotted, so the enemies entered patrol mode. There's no need to panic when this happens, as they'll eventually stop as long as they don't spot you. It took a while, so I looked for an opening to KO this guy that goes up and down the hallway. The rest are stationary, so this will make things a lot easier. I crept up to the card holder and took him out. There's a guard by the elevator, so I turned him to face the wall using the TV and managed to waddle over to the elevator before the other guard could detect me. Arriving at the ground floor, as long as you did not enter combat, then there will be no mech here. I tried to get this guard out of the way, but he wouldn't budge, so I took him out too. But he should be the last one. This at least gave me access to the computer. Now I've just got to get to the garage. There's only 2 guards patrolling up ahead, and in their natural cycle there will be a window where they're both moving towards the far end of the room. Then you can enter the elevator. Since I called it at the beginning of the mission, I didn't have to wait for it and could enter immediately. At the garage there's not much you can do, so I just ran and dove straight into the Delamain cab and he drove us out. We got tailed by some Arasaka drones, so I had no choice but to destroy them. Do these count as kills? 3 robots destroyed, how about that? Jackie sensed his imminent death and put the relic in my head. Then, a little while later, we arrived at the Notel Motel. Jackie died and I sent his body to his mom. I went inside and talked to Dex and he shot me in the face. I got revived by the relic, which kicks off the Johnny flashback mission Love Like Fire, but Johnny's kills don't count anyways, so let's just skip right past this. I woke up at the landfill where Dex and Takamura showed up to retrieve my body. Takamura shot Dex and then I had to help him fight off some Arasaka soldiers. This is another mostly scripted chase. Takamura crashes into the first guy. The second and third guys will eventually explode when you reach a certain point. I tried doing that same thing as in the rescue by not attacking, and the third guy actually did kill me, so it appears you have to do at least some damage to him. Maybe I'm being too generous here, but I think these guys either lost control or Takamura should be at fault for killing them. The last guy with the mantis blade is scripted to get pinned against the pole. Even though I did shoot him a bit, I refrained from taking the final shot. So technically he's still alive, although likely insanely crippled. We got Delamain to take us to Victor's, and I learned about the Johnny relic performing a hostile takeover on my brain. Misty took me home, and then I got to see Johnny for the first time. I read somewhere that if you take a wide swing around the edge of the room instead of just crawling up the middle, you get a unique scene of Johnny pushing you from the door. Pretty neat. Anyways, I popped an Omega blocker and awoke in the shower to begin Act 2. As a quick recap, after Act 1, I am sitting at 1 lethal elimination, 7 knockouts, and 3 robots/drones destroyed. With 6 knockouts during the heist, there's probably a way of getting this count a little lower, but all things considered, I think it's still a decent result. Welcome to Act 2. Takamura called, so finishing playing for time at the diner was good to go. But I first went down to the garage to get Human Nature done. Basically, a whacked out Delamain smashes your car, after which you won't be able to use it for a while. But it's better to get that timer going. Then I went to Tom's diner and talked to Takamura and Johnny. Outside of the diner, I scanned a mural to start the quest Fool on the Hill. It's not a priority, but it's a safe quest to complete in the event that I need some XP. I also went back to my apartment and talked to the police to start the quest Happy Together. With playing for time done, we can directly proceed to either Ghost Town or Automatic Love. I wanted to level up a bit before doing Ghost Town, as Pan Am's questline just rolls without breaks. Plus, I needed 15,000 eddies to start it. I also wanted to save Automatic Love for later, as I didn't really know my way around clouds that well. For now, I went to collect the reward from Wakako over on Jig Street, but since I didn't have a car, I had to vehicle surf over. Jackie's mom also called to start the funeral side job Heroes. I then proceeded to Wakako's and picked up some cash, but the bonus reward is at a location way over in Northside, so we'll worry about that later. Not far from here is the side job The Ballad of Buck Ravers. This is where you get one of the best Johnny lines in the game.
Mindless fucking consumerism wins the day again.
I talked to the restaurant owner and then to the Samurai superfan. Since I'm a corpo, I was able to tell him about Johnny on my own, which impressed him enough to sell me a bootleg Samurai concert recording for free. I found a car at a gas station and decided to go do Heroes next, but on the way I picked up Skippy first. I don't know if I'll use him at all, but I put him in a pacifist mode for good measure. I arrived at El Coyo and talked to Mama Wells, who gave me a key to Jackie's garage to grab something for the ceremony. There I met Misty and talked her into helping. I ended up grabbing the book For Whom the Bell Tolls. I said my piece and told Mama Wells to be nicer to Misty. She then gave me Jackie's bike. I now had a method of transportation. With that completed, enough time has passed so that I can talk to Barry at my mega building. I went through all the blue dialogue to get enough info to learn about his pet turtle. I then went to the columbarium and Takamura called, which enabled the quest down on the street. I checked out the turtle's niche or niche, whatever, and then talked to the cops. Telling them about the turtle results in the best ending for this quest, and you get a bit of money on top of it. At this point, I was level 12 with 9 points in int and tech. I began prioritizing reflex so I could get the perk that lets you dash. You forget how much you miss it when you can't do it. I also bought reinforced tendons, which set me back a good sum but is well worth it. Then I finally went to Northside to collect the Wakako reward at Cassius Ryder's clinic. Next, I went to Delamain HQ to wrap up Human Nature, where he paid me back for the damages done to my car, an actual decent amount. Then I let him give me a warehouse tour and agreed to rescue his cars. That will at least start the epistrophe missions, most of which I can do. Since Down on the Street is an all-dialogue quest, I figured it would be good to get it over with to get further into Takamura's questline. I met with Takamura and had a fairly uneventful conversation with Oda, but we learned about the parade. I rode with Takamura to Jig Street, we got some intel from Wakako, and then I left him to cook up a plan. Since I was on Jig Street, I decided to poke around Finger's clinic, a place I usually don't visit ahead of the Evelyn mission. Turns out you can grab the iconic weapon already. Wilson also called, starting the shooting contest side job. I decided to save that one for later. Since I now needed money, I decided to do the first epistrophe mission in North Oak. In this one, you just have to drive the Delamain slowly back to the garage. You don't really get that much money for doing these, but it's pretty low risk and better than nothing. Next, I decided to do the Haywood gig Jeopardy since it was close by and I figured it would be possible without any takedowns. I entered through the back door since I had enough tech to open it. There's one guard that goes up and down the hallway. I snuck in while she was moving between positions. I almost got spotted, but luckily was able to duck into the garage. I then poked my head back out and used a speaker to turn her to face the wall. Then I took the elevator down. I used the fridge in the corner to move a guard away from the body, which I was then able to sneak up to and loot the shard from. I took the elevator back up, distracted the guard again, and took the car in the garage to drive to the drop point. Pretty clean one and a substantial payout as well. Another gig I had an idea for was the Santo gig serious side effects. Well, it wasn't much of an idea, more like if I follow the normal route I can probably just take the beta acid. So I paid the $50 or whatever for a room and then opened up Booker Updike's room with tech. Solving the case of what happens to him gets you a bonus, so I scanned around to do that. I then went upstairs and followed the route marked on the minimap. There's a guard standing by the beta acid, but he moves just enough for you to sneak in and grab it without doing anything else. After that, I just went back out the way I came into the drop point. The Glen has another epistrophe mission, and if you advance all the dialogue, the car has too much momentum and ends up flipping right over the edge. Delamain thanked me for restoring control to the car and didn't question my methods. My goal at this point was to level up enough to get optical camo, my current obstacle being cyberware capacity, of which I needed 20, so I was super damn close. Another very easy gig is the first city center one, a lack of empathy. If you just take the door on the right, it'll lead you to a flight of stairs right up to the top floor. Plus, the first room has so many computers to hack. I just slinkied up the stairs, plugged into the computer, and then took the side door out of the building. Super easy. With that done, I have leveled up and gained another perk point, which I put into tech to reduce the cyberware cost of integumentary parts. I went over to a Ripper, got optical camo, and upgraded a few of my other cyberware. With the tier 2 cyber deck, I also crafted some quick hacks with recipes and components I obtained from hacking. With reflex at level 8, I wanted to level up one more time so I can get the dash perk. As I was at the Ripper Dock in Charter Hill, a gig close by that I thought might be possible was the Wakako gig Tiger and Vulture. Because I'm a corpo, I was able to talk my way into the club for free. Once I was in the club, I made sure to watch the bartender's dialogue as that will start this guard's cycle. There's a door behind the bartender that I wanted to open, which is an illegal activity so I can't be spotted doing so. Eventually said guard will move to the other side of the room. Once he did, I used quick hacks on some machines to turn him and another guard around so they wouldn't be able to see me open the door. There's also a camera inside the room, so you have to be quick on the draw if you're gonna do this. For whatever reason, every time I've done this gig and used this route, the guards on the top floor were not hostile at all. I don't know if this is a bug or is intended, but you can literally just walk to the shard, take it, and leave. So with that completed, I was about one side job away from leveling up. My choice was the epistrophe mission in Santo Domingo. This is the one where the Delamain asks you to destroy some flamingo statues out in the front lawns. So I just went and mashed them with my fists. As expected, this got me to level 16 where I put a final point in reflex and realized that I needed another perk point in order to get dash. And I didn't feel like doing another gig. I knew perk shards existed out in the world, so I looked online and found one in City Center that I could get without combat. Now we're ready to rumble, baby. It was time to pay Rogue. I went to the afterlife, saw Pan Am and Rogue have their spat, and then paid Rogue the sum needed for some intel on the relic's creator, Anders Hellman. The next day, Rogue gave me a shard and told me to call Pan Am. So I did, and she told me to meet her on Benita Street. As you can see, a diarrhea storm hit, so I skipped time to get rid of it. While on the way to Pan Am, I got a call from Takamura, triggering the quest Gimme Danger. I for sure had an idea for that one. Sorry Pan Am, Ghost Town was gonna have to wait. I met up with Takamura, who explained that he got an infection shard that we can use to sabotage the parade float that Hanako will use. I hopped into the market security room and tested it on their system. It worked, so Takamura and I sat down for some yakitori. Then we discussed the plan. This step is crucial. When he says he's going to do some recon, you have to go with him. Otherwise, you won't be able to take advantage of the corpo benefit in this mission, which is the whole reason I chose this life path in the first place. I immediately went with Takamura to the recon site. I also asked him to order a pizza, but he wanted Japanese food instead. Right off the bat, I scanned the guard by the wall to eavesdrop on his phone call. This will unlock the corpo dialogue to talk your way into the compound. From here, the rest of the scouting is irrelevant, so I just blasted through the other options. After the next time skip, we actually ended up getting pizza and sushi. Pretty cool detail. Then, after another time skip, it was time to infiltrate. I walked up to the guard and told him I'm an Abernathy pawn doing an unscheduled inspection. This scared him enough to let me in. So now with free reign over the compound, the guards won't touch me until I hack the float. There was an iconic weapon in this crate that I wanted to get, but I forgot about the mine and blew it up. This put a few of the guards on alert, but not enough to override my cover. I used the room to the left of the crate to enter the warehouse, although with the corpo bypass there are numerous ways to get in. The only guard I had to worry about was the one that sits in front of the computer room. You can easily take him out though as long as this patrolling guard isn't looking at you. I had to wait for what felt like an eternity for him to move. But once he did, I just backed this dude into the room and knocked him out. This will be the only takedown of this mission. I'm not sure if this is correct, but every time I've done this mission, as long as this guy is taken care of, then the alarm won't activate. The enemies do become hostile after uploading the hack to the computer, but combat doesn't start. As long as you move fast enough, you can climb up the crates and to safety. And there we go, Gimme Danger done with one knockout. From here, Takamura's questline won't progress until you abduct Anders Hellman. But before proceeding to Ghost Town, I went to upgrade my cyberware again. Also, I feel like I haven't done a stat check in a while, so here's where I'm at for level and skill progression. Okay, now I did Ghost Town for real. I talked to Pan Am, who agreed to the help for help deal, and we drove off to the Aldecaldos camp to see if her buddies would also lend a hand. They would not, but we borrowed some gear and headed out to the abandoned town of Rocky Ridge. When we got there, I decided to look around a bit and discovered a hole in the floor, which you'll see plays a vital part in the route that I take to complete this mission. Then I took care of all the setup stuff. All that was left was to wait for the Raffins to show up. After they showed up, I switched the power on as usual, but immediately began my long trek around to the back side of this building. There is only one Raffin you need to take down in this mission, the one with the car keys, and she will eventually make her way to the second floor. There is another guard on the ground floor, but we can turn her around using quick hacks. So once everyone was in position, I jumped up through the hole but nearly got spotted by the guard sitting on the couch. I turned her around with the TV, but probably should have done that first. Then I knocked out the Raffin with the car keys, looted her body, and for the first time ever told Pan Am to meet me at the rendezvous point. In a shocking twist, the other guard somehow spotted the body on the second floor and began to investigate. I managed to jump down while she was coming up the stairs and then ducked out through the door I came in. I looped around to the gas station where the car was. With this particular pathing, you can slip into the car without being spotted, even with enemies on alert. Combat starts when you enter the car though, but you don't have to drive far for it to end. Meeting with Pan Am, I let her take the wheel but told her flat out no to raiding the Raffin hideout. She gets a little pissy, but do know that even if you wanted to romance her, it's not necessary to do the raid. We drove to the Sunset Motel to complete the sale of the reclaimed merch. After Pan Am talks to Rogue on the phone, you'll get a text from Rogue awarding you a free car for not doing the Raffin raid. The only part left of this mission was going to the bar with Pan Am, so I successfully completed Ghost Town with only one knockout. At that moment, I was sitting at 1 kill, 9 knockouts, and 3 drones destroyed. I think I'm doing pretty well for myself. Technically, you can leave Pan Am hanging around the Sunset Motel, but I had no reason to delay, so I went straight to the garage and waited until midnight to talk to her. She told me her EMP plan, and we took off to the power station. After testing the turret and hearing Johnny brag about his dink, we eventually got to the power station. Once you enter the premises, you'll immediately be detected and have to destroy 4 drones. Pan and I crashed into the control room, overloaded the system, got clear of the blast radius, detonated the EMP, it didn't work so Pan fired an RPG at it, and then we tailed the convoy. At this part you'll have to destroy 3 drones. The first one will go down fairly easily, but the last 2 cannot be destroyed until after Pan gets shot. The AV crashed down and we arrived at the site and plugged into a drone to scan the area. Unfortunately, the Aldecaldos got here first and all of them got mowed down except for Mitch. Pan agreed to stay by the car until I disabled the cannons on the AV, so that was my first step. I immediately did a wide swing to the right and got behind this rock. This is the closest you can get to the control terminal without being spotted. I decided to try to get as close to the controls as I could using optical camo and then sprinted the rest of the way. If you can get on the controls, you won't get shot at while disabling it. As soon as it was done, I turned around and ran back to the rock. I was still very squishy, so I had to fight like a coward. Eventually Pan came as well and tanked a bunch of the bullets. But the rock strategy proved effective and I was able to destroy all the robots. Upon interrogating the pilot for Hellman's location, Pan ended up shooting him, and that one is on her, not me. Also, did you know that you can sit down in the following conversation? We said goodbye to Mitch and scanned the area for tire tracks to follow. You can also see Scorpion's body here. The first stop while following the tire tracks is an abandoned airstrip where some Kang Tao soldiers have posted up. Conveniently, you can just drive right past them, although I don't think the game intends for you to do this, as Pan interrupted herself with her own dialogue.
I would have done the same. They're looking to call their people. That's for my friends, you assholes! I hope Mitch contacted the Aldecaldos.
I also did not kill those guys, so I don't know what she was talking about. We arrived at the station where Hellman was being held. I took a wide swing to the left as it is lightly guarded. Then, thanks to double jump and dash, I was able to hop right over the fence and onto the stairs to the roof. Eventually, somewhere in the middle of the roof is a door that you can open with enough tech. I hopped down it and talked to the guy who owns the station. He's a chill dude and immediately revealed where Hellman was. And conveniently I was able to use the computer to disable cameras. There's a guard directly outside of this room standing by the counter. I moved him over to the side using a fridge and snuck past him. Then I sat in this partition area and watched the minimap until the 2 guards in the corner finished their conversation. When they are done, one of them will move to the side of the room closest to where I was, so I went out once that guy started moving. There's a guard that patrols the back wall, so I used a distraction on him to prevent him from moving. Then there's a guard that remains stationary in the corner. I turned him around using a camera so that he wouldn't see me go up the stairs. Once you enter this room and close the door, all the Kang Tao soldiers will immediately drop dead. This is not a fault of mine and something that is coded into the game, and therefore doesn't count. I knocked out Hellman, talked to Takamura, and then carried Hellman outside. After wrapping things up with the Aldecaldos, I was given Scorpion's bike and took Hellman to the Sunset Motel for interrogation. He told me I was not long for this world, but at least gave me the blueprints for the relic. Takamura arrived, so I let him do his torturing session next. Then one of the tapeworm events will automatically play, and as this is the first one for this run, Johnny told me about Mikoshi and Alt Cunningham. If by chance you've never seen this before, the contents of tapeworm play in the same order but can occur at different locations. I made a video about it if you're interested. With life during wartime completed, the only knockout was Anders Hellman, unfortunately unavoidable, as well as the 6 robots/drones destroyed at the AV crash site. There were also 7 drones destroyed during lightning breaks, bringing that total count to 16. Unfortunately, my cyberware and weapons are quite underleveled now as tier 3 stuff has become available, but most of my shit is still tier 2. With little money to my name, I decided to do a few side jobs to buff myself up before the unavoidable fight against Oda. I decided to go do Love Roller Coaster, as that quest will eventually become unavailable. On the way, I checked out the meat shop in Pacifica, and it was completely empty. In front of the roller coaster, I gave a cat some food and he opened a safe for me. Then I talked to the locals, fixed the roller coaster, and agreed to ride it. For the only time in this run, I allowed myself to use the third-person mod to watch Johnny and V ride the coaster. Aren't they the cutest? Anyway, since I was in Pacifica near the GIM already, I decided to walk into the back route that you eventually have to go down to see how far I could get. Unfortunately, you get stopped at this gate. Takamura also called saying the parade was ready, But as I said earlier, I need to level myself up some. I wanted to level up enough to get 15 points of tech. This would have allowed me to get the cellular adapter cyberware. I went back to the Badlands to collect the car from Rogue. Then I did a gig nearby called Flying Drugs. It's actually hilarious, check this out.
My, you certainly sorted that out cleanly.
After that, I went up to Northside and did the gig Rite of Passage. I had an epiphany about this one, and my strategy ended up working. With double jump, you can hop right into the server room through a back window. I used the camera to distract the maelstrom, and that gave me enough time to steal the recording and hop back out. Next, I did the Epistrophe in Northside, which led me to the mission I'm in love with my car. I also talked to Brendan and moved the dumpster for him. I then went to City Center to do the gig An Inconvenient Killer. There is a very cool peaceful ending in this one. I had to pay to get in the club, but these City Center gigs offer massive payouts. First, I went to the basement. It requires no checks or stealth maneuvers and has some decent loot. Then I went to the second floor by the security room. When the maintenance guy inside moved to the other room, I followed him in and snuck past him. This will let you climb up to a catwalk to cross over to the VIP bathroom. From there, I hacked a port and then ran into Jack Mouser's room. By talking to him, you can threaten him into leaving Night City. It requires no checks, so he agreed, and this is an outcome that Dino is very happy with. That got me a large chunk of cash, but I'm just shy of leveling up to 22, which will give me the last point needed to reach 15 tech. One more mission should do it. I decided to go with the Santo gig Race to the Top. On the side of the lot, there will be a fence you can break with tech. There's one guard and a few cameras you have to watch for. The guard goes up and down the back wall here. With him out of the way, I ran in and up to this ladder. There is a guard that came out for a smoke, but once you get close, he'll begin walking back inside. I followed him on the catwalk and then into the office to steal the data. Then I just walked back out the way I came. There is a worker on the ground floor that can slightly see up through the catwalk, but I just popped optical camo and it was fine. You may have to watch for the timing on the guard that patrols the perimeter. Finishing this gave me the final attribute point, but I totally forgot about needing enough perk points. I needed 2 more points to get the Built Different perk. I figured I could refund one from one of my other perks, but that meant I still needed another point. So after some quick googling, I found there's a perk shard in a building in Arasaka Industrial Park, which was oddly abandoned. Maybe because the parade started, which would make sense. Suddenly Pan Am called for the mission Riders on the Storm. That's the one where Saul gets kidnapped by wraiths. And all of a sudden the gears started turning. I thought it would actually be possible with 0 takedowns. Anyways, I used the newly found perk point and refunded another to get Built Different. Then I went to a Ripper Dock and bought cellular adapter as well as upgrading some of my other cyberware. I decided to chance it with Riders on the Storm. On top of this being cool if it worked, the sniper rifle reward is also pretty sweet. I took the super jet thingy from Mitch and then left with Pan Am to the Wraith camp. At the camp, I immediately went to the left and hopped the green container. Then I used a light to distract the guard in this area. This will delay his cycle as he will eventually move in the direction I wanted to go. I snuck past him and got a bit confused as there is usually a guard around here, but turns out I was actually so fast that I was ahead of him in his cycle, so I ran towards the far side. As the guard eventually caught up, I turned him around using Distract and opened the warehouse door, which surprisingly can be done with no checks. Once inside, there are 2 guards on the ground floor I had to avoid. I figured I'd be able to sneak downstairs, but I had to wait an eternity for this one guy to move. Once he did, I used a distraction on the other guard to turn him to the right and went downstairs. In this area, there are 2 guards. Once they finish their convo, they will separate, and I used this opportunity to move into the partition. The next room has a guard sitting on a chair, but he's so engrossed in whatever bullshit is on his phone that he doesn't look down to where Saul is. I spoke to Saul, jabbed him with the superjet, and then used the emergency tunnel to leave, a shining example of why tech is so goated. The mission is basically done from here on, so I had successfully saved Saul without a single takedown in the Wraith camp. We waited out the sandstorm at an abandoned shack, haboobs and all that, and the next morning Panam thanked me with the sniper rifle. Epic. I was almost ready to fight Oda. As you can see, I received Panam's sniper at tier 3, while most of my arsenal was only tier 2. So I decided to do Wilson's shooting contest to get a free tier 3 auto pistol. I grabbed Dying Knight from my stash, which makes this contest pretty easy to win. I then did Scorpion's funeral just for the sake of RP, as that quest eventually disappears. After the funeral, I always go to the film set nearby, as there is a small side job as well as a fast travel terminal. The job just involves getting into a car. Okay, now for real, it is time to do the parade. So I finally met with Takamura and took a preview of the Shard. The snipers, I had to KO. There's just no way around that without blowing up the whole operation. The first sniper was fairly straightforward. Just a straight path to him, up onto the billboard, and a quiet takedown. The path towards the second sniper is pretty simple as well. I ended up having enough tech to open the door to get the Genjiro Smart Pistol. I hopped across the broken catwalk and had to begin descending. There were 2 drones hovering though. Thankfully, I was able to one-shot them both with the silent sniper. I'm not sure if I could have dealt with them stealthily otherwise, so it's a good thing I did Raiders of the Storm. Also, does anyone know what detaching these catwalk things do? In my experience, it doesn't do shit to the drones, so all it is some free tech XP. Anyways, I continued downward and eventually reached the room where the second sniper was. The guard out front will end up moving out of the way, so not much of a bother. I disabled the mine and then disabled the sniper. That's 2 drones and 2 KOs so far. Next, I had to go up the stairs. There's a guard that is in a very sneaky position here, but thankfully I know about him, so I used the doorbell thing to move him away. The second guy on the laptop was a bit of a problem. He's too far from any devices to distract him. I tried to just sneak past him, but my optical camo wasn't enough. But I was determined I could solve this, so I reloaded. This time, I used bait and played Ring Around the Rosie using this couch island thing. And it actually fucking worked. It was so stupid I almost couldn't believe it. At the next area, my tech build lets me open all doors, so I was able to climb up without taking out the guard for his keycard. I took the elevator up to the footbridge area, and before going down the stairs, I went up to the roof of the bridge to shoot a drone that patrols the area. It almost detected me, but I shot it right when the meter triggered, so none of the guards were alerted. Close one. I crept down the stairs and onto the bridge. I disabled the mine using quick hacks as I didn't want to risk blowing them up by proximity. Then I did a quiet takedown on the last sniper. We're 3 for 3 on snipers and drones now. The only thing left is the Oda fight, which I was still pretty worried about. After taking the elevator down, I did a final inventory check to apply buffs and see what my weapon loadout looked like. Here's the stats breakdown ahead of it. Going in, I had a tier 2 Testera shotgun, the prototype Arasaka SMG, and the shooting contest pistol. So at the beginning of the fight, you unplug the netrunner, and I'm not sure if that kills them or not. The prompt just said jack out, so maybe it's a knockout? Anyways, now I'm fighting Oda. Luckily, I have quick hacks to back me up, but only tier 2. The only damaging quick hack I had equipped was Short Circuit, as it is non-lethal. I very quickly found out the Testera sucks donkey balls. I pulled out the Arasaka SMG and was reminded that Oda's mask prevents smart targeting. So out comes the pistol. Unfortunately, I was essentially shooting BB pellets at him, so I knew I was in for a long one. Also, Oda took like a quarter of my life every time he hit me, so I could only withstand like 4 attacks before dying. I eventually came to my senses and equipped a tier 3 assault rifle I had picked up somewhere. From here, it was the sweatiest fucking fight of my Cyberpunk career, constantly spamming Short Circuit and cyberware malfunction. Was there a better quick hack combo to use? Probably, but it was the heat of the moment and I wanted to beat this first try. I think the fight ended up being almost 6 minutes long, which for Cyberpunk standards is a pretty damn long time. Even though I shot Oda with live ammo, it only pacified him, which I'm perfectly fine with. Anyways, I hope you understand why I was so worried about this mission now. I hacked into the system and disabled float security so Takamura could abduct Hanako. Then they sent a drone on me, so I did a dolphin dive off the balcony and ran to the elevator. Arriving at street level, I had successfully completed the parade by only taking out the enemies that I had to, and the drones. So 5 knockouts and 3 drones destroyed. Post-parade, the count for this run is 1 kill, 15 knockouts, and 19 drones/robots destroyed. I have little reason to delay any more in this run, so I went straight to the abandoned apartment that Takamura was hiding out at. I knocked 4 times, told Hanako I had the relic, and then we got attacked by Arasaka. While it makes no difference, I had to leave Takamura behind. I figured it would be damn near impossible to avoid all the guards, so I tried to advance as far as I could, and just started running once I got detected. There's a cutscene that triggers once you hit the door, so as long as I could get there, I'd be good. And that's pretty much exactly how it went. Getting out of town to the Sunset Motel, I was visited by a proxy that Hanako used to speak to me. Because of the order I had played these missions, I was currently not done chasing down leads. Hanako gave me her number and told me to call her if I could find out how to obtain Soul Killer, the program Alt Cunningham made to create engrams. After the proxy leaves and you head outside, you get another tapeworm event. In this case, it was number 2, so Johnny will tell you why he hates Corpse if you let him. Finally, it was time to start Automatic Love by calling Judy. I could have done this way earlier, but I didn't have many ideas for pulling these missions off with stealth. So I called Judy, went to Lizzie's, talked to the goat Rita Wheeler, then to Judy again, and found out Evelyn might be at Clouds. Before heading there, I took a pit stop at a Ripper Dock and upgraded some cyberware. I arrived at the club, checked in, and picked Sky. The game really throws that curveball at you, naming the guy Angel. Anyways, after dumping off my weapons, I went past Evelyn's booth and realized I could already open it, so I went inside, but it seemed weird doing it out of order, so I went to talk to Sky first. After the conversation of V's existential dread, Sky said I should go and talk to Tom, a friend of Evelyn's. I went back to Evelyn's booth and watched her crash out. Although as far as narrative goes, I don't think I used this information in any follow-up dialogue. I then realized I needed to find a way upstairs. Normally, I simply knock out the guy in the bathroom to take his keycard, but I don't want to do that in this run. I found this window and used it for the first time. The catwalk outside takes you to this room, and I didn't realize I had to get in the elevator, so I kind of fucked up my positioning. Thankfully, I was able to get the guard into one of the corners and took the elevator up. I talked to Tom, who told me to talk to Woodman, the guy who runs the joint. There's a door on the side of the bar that leads to Woodman's office, but this guard that stands beside it takes 10 hours to go away. Finally, I slipped inside and used tech to open a door to go straight. I talked to Woodman and got him to reveal that he sent Evelyn to Fingers for repairs. I used the staff elevator to go back to the common area and left Clouds. After using the Mega Building elevator, you'll get another tapeworm event at ground level. As this is number 3, this is the one where Johnny and V have a nice long heart-to-heart. I told Johnny he's an unremorseful killer, but then he just called me one too. Excuse me? Somehow his fucking nuclear explosion downtown is equivalent to me tossing that one dude in the freezer? Yeah, right. So remember earlier when I went to check out Fingers' clinic? Well, after talking my way to the front of the line and getting in there, he actually did remember me for some unique dialogue.
You, I recall. You visited me before. Whereas you, I can't quite place. Let me guess. Tiger claws?
As much as I would have liked to punch him in the face, for the sake of the run, I refrained from doing so. We learned that some guys came and took Evelyn, potentially for some underground BD recordings. Judy tells me to access the dark web to find a shady dealer, so I did that. This is actually a really cool Easter egg in the game. The dealer's name is Lenny Nero, the same name of the main character in the film Strange Days. I made a video about that movie, and it's basically about braindances. I tracked him down through the pooter and had to shell out nearly 5,000 eddies to buy this garbage. Using the braindance, we found some clues about where it was recorded and determined it was a power plant in Charter Hill. Alright, so I get to the plant and I have absolutely no idea how to go about this. I don't really know where the guards are situated or how they cycle, so I'm just looking around for places to go. Eventually, I found a transformer or something to jump on and found a door leading into the plant. I hopped across the scaffolding and used a light to turn a guard to face the wall. Then I just dropped down and went down the stairs. After waiting for Judy to catch up, we proceeded until we hit this room, with 2 guards separated by a tarp. The dude sitting down doesn't move, but I wasn't sure about the other. I turned her around with the fridge and crept past. This room has 2 guards, one of which doesn't move. I opened the blinds and that lured him over, but just by luck, the other dude also crossed to the same side of the room. I used the light on him and was able to sneak past both of them. Now I think I went the wrong way here, but it did lead to a computer where I got to turn the cameras off, so not a bad detour. Up ahead is where Judy creates a distraction that would normally let you take down these guys together, but I figured I could just sneak past them. With the help of optical camo, I did just that. I dropped Judy off at the maintenance room and went ahead. The first room only had 1 guard. No problem. I go to the left and find myself stuck in a corridor. There's 1 guard here, but I know the furnace room to the right has more guys in it. I figured it's virtually impossible to go this way without pacifying, so I went back. I used the TV to turn this one guy around, but instead of investigating it, he just turned to look at it and then turned back. He almost spotted me, but my synaptic adapter activated. It slowed down time enough for me to get out of range, but now I was sitting in enemy territory. The guy by the furnace doesn't move, so I spun the other dude around and climbed up the stairs to the right. Now there's one guy that loops around the furnace, and he's the only one to watch for. Eventually, he stopped in front of the other guard and I hopped to a catwalk along the back wall. I've never been up here before, but luckily there's a break in the wall that lets you drop into the correct hallway. After Judy arrived, we went into the room where Evelyn was. We unplugged her, Judy locked all the doors, activated the elevator, and I carried her out of there. Amazingly, I had completed Disasterpiece without a single takedown. The next mission begins immediately, which is Double Life. I tried talking to Evelyn, but she's unresponsive, so Judy showed me 2 brain dances recorded by Evelyn. So I guess earlier when I was at the butcher shop, I must have also gone into the church, because I was able to finish the BD having only scanned Brigitte. With the second BD, you learn about the Voodoo Boy's intention to contact Alt Cunningham. Thanking Judy, I walked out back and called Mr. Hands, Pacifica's resident fixer. Because all other main jobs have been completed, this phone call with Hands is unique as there will be no waiting period for him to make contact with the VDBs. He puts you on hold for a second and Johnny even provides some extra commentary.
A moment, please.
This fucking guy says he ain't in touch, but fear not. They're just a call away.
He is the only fixer in Pacifica. Not like they can just blow him off.
V, it's your lucky day.
Now it's off to bed to get rid of this rain. Then to the VDB church to meet with the contact. That guy told me to go to the butcher shop, and unfortunately there was no unique dialogue even though I had been there before. I talked to Placide, who was busy chopping up a chicken, and then followed him to Batty's hotel. There he revealed that I could meet with Voodoo Boy's chieftain Brigitte if I did this job for him. I had to go investigate the GIM. He called Victor my Chrome Shaman, which is honestly a badass title to call someone. I immediately went to meet with some of Placide's men and then headed over to the garage. Fortunately, I played this part of the mission enough to know how to get through it stealthily. First area, I could go right past the guards on the left side. In this second part, I waited for these 2 motorcycle dudes to drive away. Then I moved up a little bit towards a group of 3. This will trigger their conversation, after which 2 of them will drive away and the other will move up the stairs. I entered through the large door and double jumped into this window. This staircase leads up to the 2nd floor, skipping a lot of the guards. Now that I was here though, I had no idea what to do. I knew where the van was, but not how to get to it. So at first, I went across to the van's side. Then I had to decide whether to go across this level or the ground floor. I decided to go for the ground. I turned the overlooker around and went down the escalator. Fortunately, I was able to go straight towards the van without much trouble. But there were 3 guards huddled around it. I knew their conversation would end eventually, but not where they would go, so I ducked into a room on the left. The only thing standing between me and the van was 1 guard, but I needed to get around to the other side of the van and I did not have enough body to open this gate. I eventually found out there's enough distance on this distraction to move the van guy out of the way. I turned off the turret, swung around to the other side of the van, and jacked in. Once you do this, the animals will be on alert, although it seemed like some of them despawned or something, which was weird. Also, this guy did some weird teleportation shit. I hung left and went up the elevator shaft. I was gonna swing around the corner, but there was a guy right in front of me, but somehow he didn't see me. I waited for him to turn around and just went forward. This brought me to the Matilda room. I tried lifting up as many of the floor panels as I could, but on her own, she charged to the right side of the room. I used a ceiling fan to distract her, and this was enough to let me run right past. I walked into the theater and talked to the Netwatch guy. I let him convince me that I was conned by the VDBs and ran diagnostics on myself. I agreed to side with him, as I would rather take out Placide later than this guy. The mission is practically done, and I am very surprised I was able to beat it without a single takedown. I skipped out of the mall, and Placide's men were already waiting to take me to him. I confronted Placide, and he picked me up like a baby. I'm a pacifist, so I had to refrain from punching him, which sucked. Brigitte then showed up and got him to put me down. Since Alt Cunningham is my last lead of the game, I had no choice but to follow her to their net running den. Their den is buried deep under the church in an abandoned maglev tunnel. They want to contact Alt Cunningham to be on the right side of the Black Wall Wars or some stupid shit, so I hopped in the tub and entered cyberspace. They enhanced my link to Johnny in order to contact Alt, and in doing so, this triggers the flashback mission Never Fade Away. This is a really long-ass mission with Alt's sex scene and abduction. It's gotta be at least over half an hour if you listen to all the dialogue. After returning to cyberspace and Brigitte, we make contact with Alt. She immediately nukes all of the VDBs. Not my fault. Netwatch placed a tracker on me and she killed the VDBs thinking they were involved. She takes us somewhere else in cyberspace, free from everyone. We eventually arrived at the conclusion that Alt could fix me if I could get her into Mikoshi. She agreed to help, so it's back to the real world. All the netrunners are dead, so I looted them all. However, this is likely the last actual hard part of the game. The problem with siding with Netwatch is that you have to get out of here with all the remaining VDBs hostile and on alert. At first, around 3 to 4 will come and investigate the tunnel. One remained by the door, and unfortunately I waited so long that they discovered the bodies and began roaming. With good timing, I was able to slide past them. Up ahead, another VDB appears to just wander straight and stop at this gate. It caught me a bit off guard, but I could move past him no problem. The next guy sits right in the middle of the hall, and I thought this guy might have to be taken down or even killed. I was able to move him with a radio, but he inspected it through the wall. There was a generator behind me, and by some miracle, he was actually in range to get distracted by it. I moved up the stairs and into the main church area. Only thing left is to take out Placide, which you have to do as he has the keys to the door. He was standing with another guy, but I knew they would eventually separate. I waited, and once they did, I used a distraction on the wall next to Placide. I then crept up behind him and did a knockout. I would have preferred to kill him, but good enough. After heading outside, you will get a tapeworm event, and for me, it was the last one. Johnny brings me to the Pista Sophia, but more importantly, I had beaten all the Evelyn and VDB missions with only one takedown. I would not have guessed that. Johnny gave me his dog tags and asked me to do some stuff with Rogue, but unfortunately none of that really matters as the run is practically over. This mission order gives you the unique opportunity to call Hanako to let her know you have Alt/Soul Killer. Then she'll tell you to meet her at Embers. Somi calls right after. I agreed to meet her at Dogtown, but if only she knew what I planned to do next. So you might be wondering which of the endings has the least enemies or easiest path, or what missions I can do to power level enough to beat Atom Smasher. Well, let me just say, friends, that from the moment I started this run, I knew just the strat. I'm gonna go to the roof and blow my head off. That's right, maybe you forgot this was an ending, and who could blame you because it's one of the worst ones. Not the fitting end our hero deserves, but the credits roll after, so it's an ending nonetheless. And you'll never believe this shit. While driving over to Embers, I began to get chased by an Arasaka hit squad. They deploy these guys sometime after Search and Destroy to get back at you for kidnapping Hanako. I ended up getting off my bike and hopped onto a roof. This got them to leave their car. Then I hit them with some fancy footwork and hopped back on my bike. I drove far enough for them to despawn. So here are my stats at the point of no return. I reached level 28 with 25 street cred. I met with Hanako at Embers and listened to her dumb shit plan. Johnny was super fucking pissed that I had literally zero other options. I went to Victor's and listened to his disappointed dad speech. I took the pistol and pills and followed Misty to the roof. I had nobody to call, so I just went ahead and eliminated myself. At just over 13 hours, I have finished my extreme pacifist run with 1 kill, 16 knockouts, and 19 drones/robots destroyed. I guess technically 2 kills if you count myself. Here's the full breakdown of relevant missions. The only kill was the one during the rescue where you inexplicably have to put that guy into the freezer. Of the 16 knockouts, 1 came from the rescue, 6 from the heist, 1 from Gimme Danger, 1 from Ghost Town, 1 from Life During Wartime, 5 from Play It Safe, and 1 from Transmission. Of the 19 drones/robots destroyed, 3 were from the heist, 7 from Lightning Breaks, 6 from Life During Wartime, and 3 from Play It Safe. In total, I completed 56 jobs/gigs. I definitely could have done a few more without affecting the takedown counter, but I wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. The extra cash and XP would have definitely helped though. During the credits, I only received messages from Victor, Mama Wells, Judy, Pan Am, and Misty. And that's it. It was pretty fun. I'm sure you could probably get these numbers down even more, but I'm satisfied with the result, and I hope you learned a thing or two somewhere throughout the run. If you made it this far, serious kudos to you, and I promise the next video won't be anywhere close to this long. With that said, that is all for this one, and a very sincere thank you for watching.